GoForThe2.com. We're into the Week 6 predictions for the college football season. Week number 5 did not disappoint, set the stage for Separation Saturday this coming weekend. There's about 7 games that have national title implications, and I can't wait to see how it plays out this coming weekend. It's must-watch television if you're a college football fan. Let's get right into the predictions. Clemson taking on NC State. NC State looks sharp early, jumping out 24-7 against the top-ranked Florida State Seminoles. Looked like they would pull off the upset. Quarterback Jacoby Brissett was making plays with his arm and his legs to lead the Wolfpack to the first quarter lead. But in the end, Florida State dominated in the third and fourth quarter and picked up a 56-41 victory over NC State on the road. Now NC State, who lost at home, must jump to Death Valley. How emotionally and physically drained are the Wolfpack? I know it's an ACC matchup, but Death Valley is a very difficult place to play. On the flip side, when you look at Clemson, freshman quarterback Deshaun Watson made his first career start last week, stepped up in a big way. 6 touchdowns, only 1 interception. Clemson threw for over 400 yards against North Carolina last week. When you look at Clemson's defense, they were able to shut down North Carolina early in the first and second quarter. After their offense built a big lead, they gave some yards and some points up late, but they really dominated on the defensive line led by Vic Beasley. I think Clemson matches up very, very well against the NC State Wolfpack on both sides of the ball, and I think this is a dominant home victory by Dabo Swinney and the Tigers. I think Clemson dominates at home this coming weekend. Alabama travels to Ole Miss in a critical SEC West matchup. On paper, Alabama's owned the last 5 matchups. They're 5-0 with an average margin of victory of 24.2 points per game. Looks like Alabama should roll in this one. They're coming off a bye week. Offensive coordinator Lane Kiffin has that offense hitting on all cylinders. Blake Sims throwing for over 335 passing yards per game. Offensive line playing very well. Alabama's rushing for over 200 yards per game. And when you look at wide receiver Amari Cooper, he's having a dominating season. Heisman Trophy candidate, 43 receptions, 655 yards, 5 touchdowns. He's able to stretch defenses. My concern with Alabama is they're not creating a whole lot of turnovers. They're -3 in turnover margin on the year. They haven't been negative in turnover margin since prior to 2008. They're very solid in run support, giving up less than 120 yards rushing per game, and they're only giving up 188 passing yards per game, but you saw West Virginia was able to exploit the secondary. I think quarterback Bo Wallace from Ole Miss completing 71% of his passes, 11 touchdowns, 6 INTs. He's been erratic, but I think will be able to stretch the Alabama secondary, and wide receiver Treadwell will have a big day against the Crimson Tide secondary on Saturday. When you look at Alabama matching up against the defensive line of Ole Miss, Robert Condici's a stud. I like the physicality on the defensive line by Ole Miss. They're only giving up 114 rushing yards per game. More importantly, they're only giving up 133 passing yards per game. I think the secondary matches up very well. They're very physical in run support, and I like the way they match up against Amari Cooper and Christian Jones and DeAndrew White on Saturday. I think they match up very, very well. More importantly, though, if Alabama's to get the victory on the road, they're going to have to create turnovers, something that they're not doing. Prior to that Florida game last week, only created 1 turnover on the year. So now they have 4. Came all last week against 2 weeks ago against Jeff Driscoll, but I think Bo Wallace is a much better quarterback, and Hugh Freeze is a much better coach than Will Muschamp. And I think Ole Miss has been waiting for this game all season long. I think they pick up the 24-20 victory over the Crimson Tide and stun Alabama on Saturday. First time since Ole Miss has been 4-0 since 1970. Oxford, very difficult place to play. If you remember last year, Ole Miss struck the upset over Les Miles and LSU 27-24, and I think they knock off Alabama this coming weekend. Let's talk about a marquee matchup in the Big Ten. Michigan State, Nebraska. Nebraska's won 2 of the last 3. Both of those victories came in East Lansing. When you look at Michigan State, they're averaging 50.3 points per game. Nebraska averaging 45.4 points per game. But I like the offensive line by Nebraska. They're very fast. This could be one of Bo Pelini's fastest offensive lines, in my opinion, and this reminds me of the teams of the mid-90s from an offensive line perspective. They have one of the best running backs in the nation in Amir Abdullah, and they're averaging 354 rushing yards per game. Tommy Armstrong, another quick quarterback, he's only completing 53% of his passes, but they work very well off of play action. I like the way Nebraska's offensive line matches up against the defensive front of Michigan State. Michigan State very solid in run support. They're going to look to crowd the box. They're giving up only 80 yards rushing per game, and they're very opportunistic with a +9 in turnover margin. But against Oregon, who had the same type of offense, they were not able to create turnovers on the road, and that's why they lost that ball game in Autzen Stadium. When you look at Nebraska, very solid defense. They're solid in run support. They're creating sacks led by Randy Gregory. He's got 4.5 on the season, and they're very solid on the road. I like Nebraska in this matchup to keep it very, very close. I don't think they get the victory. In the end, I think Michigan State picks up a 24-21 victory over Nebraska, but I think the Cornhuskers keep it very close on Saturday. Let's talk about last matchup, Wash State Cal. It's homecoming in Washington State. Washington State got a monumental victory in the Pac-12 last week because Utah, in my opinion, is a very difficult place to play. They picked up a 28-27 victory in Utah. I think they head home. They're hitting on all cylinders. When you look at that quarterback, Connor Holiday, he's legit. He's one of the best quarterbacks that you never heard of in the Pac-12. Mike Leach, very good game planner. Cal, in my opinion, they picked up a 59-56 victory over Colorado, got pushed to the limit against the Buffaloes in 3 overtimes. They now have to head on the road in the Pac-12 matchup. Credit Sonny Dykes. He's doing a great job. Got a great quarterback in Jared Goff, but when you look at this matchup last year on the road, Washington State was able to pick up a 20-point victory over Cal. So I think Cal is overmatched in this game. I think Cal is still a year away. Just a tough spot for Cal now after a triple overtime win at home to head to the road. And I think the Cougars pick up a dominating home victory on homecoming over Cal. Stay with me all season long on Go for the Two and the Weekly Blitz. I can't wait to see how these games play out. Should be an amazing week of college football. And stay with me because I just love talking about it.